Before we start this podcast, I want to say that every project I have pretty much has a village behind it, and this one is no exception. I want to thank the patrons who stepped in on my Kickstarter to really make sure that this got off the ground. Denise Grady, Caden White Wadham, Amanda Peak, Todd A. Davis, Jay Grant, and Corey Watson. Without you guys, I wouldn't be sitting here talking with the awesome guest that I'm about to talk to. Thank you so much. I'll go ahead and lay down the rules now, then I'll start the podcast, and then about every 6 minutes or so, we're going to have an encounter, okay? Using the stats that you gave me. And I'll have to say, you as a character are a whole lot more well-rounded than I
am pretty well-rounded.
Yeah. I took a look at it. I have negatives in mine. It's not great. You go below 10, you automatically get a negative, right?
Welcome to It's Your Loss podcast, where raw stories of resilience and healing are told, all while uncovering and destigmatizing the diverse symptoms of loss.
Welcome back to the podcast. If you missed last month's episode, well, it's your loss. I am host Michael LeBlanc, and with me today is the guy who ever gave me the first chance to be on a podcast at all. He is host of the High Life podcast, spelled with a Y, but not where you think. It is Stephen Rhodes. Hello, Stephen.
Hello. Thank you.
Hey, not a problem. Not a problem. I'm so glad, like, everybody who I've been on a podcast with so far has been guests now that you've here.
Yeah.
So I feel like I'm giving back to the podcast world. It feels good doing that.
You know, it's nice to be a guest on somebody else's show.
When's the last time you were a guest?
Oh, a little over a year ago.
Okay.
I did Above the Bar podcast.
All right. Well, yeah. How was the vibe on that podcast?
Oh, it was great. He makes you feel like you're just chit-chatting at a bar.
Oh, that's awesome.
He'll bring up a topic for you guys to discuss, and you just go for it.
Is it a one-on-one, one-on-two,
yep.
or
one-on-one?
One-on-one. Yeah, I thought about doing like two hosts all together, like interviewing one person, and then I was like,
I've thought about that before.
Yeah, and I'm like, but the scheduling, dear God, the scheduling.
Oh yeah.
Trust
me, I know.
It's hard enough to get grown adults to play, D&D or any kind of tabletop RPG, trying to get them together to record a podcast for just 1 hour. Nah, that's rough. That's rough. All right, so I'm going to hit the timer starting now. But in the meantime, I'll go ahead and start this conversation. Steve, as you wanted to be called, what have you lost?
So I lost what I like to call my safety net in this community. I live in a very small town. We literally have one gas station and then like a little rinky-dink gas station that's sort of in town too.
Sure. I know a couple of towns like that in South Carolina. Yeah. One of them called Pumpkin Town.
Okay. So I met someone and things did not turn out well at all.
Okay.
And made me lose the safety feeling that I had living here.
That's a different type of loss than one that I've talked about before. We've had a couple of emotional and conceptual losses. I think those can be kind of a little bit more lasting when it comes to their effects, just because you lose something physical, that's gone, but you lose something like emotional or intangible. It's kind of hard to recover from that. What was the relationship itself? What was it like? Overall, and then what went wrong?
Okay, so the relationship, like I said, it was a girlfriend, and when things started, it was great. Mm-hmm. What I didn't realize was it was a facade, and her true self came out later in the form of drugs.
Oh, okay.
And that is where things went wrong. Was she fell back into drugs, which I didn't realize she had been heavy in, and it turned her into somebody else, and that turned into a very scary situation.
Sure. God, I can understand that. My personal relationship with my parents was marred because of drugs. And it just kind of warped and shaped into something just completely different by the end. But dude, drugs are rough. Are we talking? I mean, I don't know how deep you want to go into it.
Her drug of choice was methamphetamine.
Ooh, okay,
yeah,
all right. Let's dive in deep.
For the longest time, I didn't even know she was doing it. By the time I realized it, I had to figure out a way to leave carefully.
Right.
And it didn't go how I wanted.
Holy crap. I've never had to deal with anybody doing meth other than the occasional people who I've maybe met on the street, you know. That,
right.
Like, you could just...
and it's so easy to notice.
Right.
When it's a stranger.
That's wild.
Live with the person. And especially since she was a former, she was already an addict when I met her. I didn't notice a whole lot of behavior changes at first.
She was probably already well versed.
She was doing more and more of it.
Yeah, she's probably well versed at hiding it.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Leading up to it, I mean, was there ever like a internal doubt where you're like, okay, maybe this is something that I can help her get over, or did you just see what was happening and be like,
I did try for a while. I made a deal with her that if she would get clean, I would stay. And so she quit for a week and a half, and she was right back to it.
Cold turkey without any help?
I've tried, finding help for her and stuff. She didn't want help. She refused any sort of help. She tried turning to religion, but the people that she was joining in with were other meth addicts.
Oh, no.
And I'm like, that's not helping. Now it's just a group of meth addicts trying to talk about Jesus.
That's a round the mulberry bush type situation until eventually Pop goes the weasel. I have a random number generator on the screen as well. And it's going to give me a random number between 12 and 341. That corresponds to a page in the monster manual. And we're going to... I have
a digital version of that.
I do too. Luckily for me, there's some D&D folks who are in this house, and I'm borrowing their dice and all their stuff. All my DM stuff's at home.
There you go.
Didn't think that far ahead. So what I'm going to do is we're going to choose a monster. I'm going to give you their highest stat and their lowest stat, and this is where this is going to deviate from standard D&D. You're going to choose the stat that you want to use to go up against that monster. We roll each of their d20 against that stat, add the modifiers, and whoever wins comes out on top. 3 strikes, you're out.
I have my own d20.
Okay, even better. Even better. All right. So you can actually roll your own d20. I'll roll the monster's d20, and then I'll do the same for me over here. And you're kind of at a slight disadvantage, obviously, because I'm reading the monster manual.
Right.
But I'm going to be... Just know that I'm playing with the honor system here. I'm going to try to play as fair as possible. But like I said, I do have negatives, so I may not be leaning on, say, my strength or my dexterity.
Right.
Those are horrible. As I was answering the questions on the quiz that gave us these stats, I was just shaking my head. I'm like, I would die in the world of D&D. I would be the guy selling cabbages on the side of the road. That would be my job.
I was thoroughly shocked at my athleticism.
Yeah, dude. It looks like you could. I mean, you could definitely probably take me in a fight if we were just to throw these stats together. I think. Of course, it all depends on the roll of the dice, right?
Right.
All right. We got page 12, which that is the first page. And if it's the first page, maybe it's not going to be so bad. Who knows? I don't think they're going to start. It is the monster manual, which means that it's supposed to be some of the big bads. So we'll see.
Yeah.
I think this is pronounced, and the people out there who know how to pronounce this may butcher me later, but it looks like it's Arakakra, which is a medium humanoid, neutral good bird man thing with a giant spear. I will tell you that its highest is dexterity at 14, and its lowest is Constitution at 10. So you can use any stat that you want, and this thing can summon air elementals while you're looking that up.
Okay, well, I'm going to use my charisma.
Nice. Okay. All right. And against its charisma, I'll go ahead and roll. You guys should be able to even hear my dice. I've messed with the audio enough, so there we go. All right. You go ahead and roll, and I'll tell you what we got going on here.
I got a 6.
You got a 6 with a charisma bonus. You have a charisma bonus? You do, a +1. You have a 7 against their impeccably rolled 16. I am so sorry. They rizzed you to death. You're a down 1, my guy. All right. And I am going to use what I think is my highest, which is I think I'm also going to use charisma on this go. I'll try not to use this different one each time, but my charisma is the highest. That's what it says. So rolling for that and rolling for me.
Yeah, I was torn between my charisma and my intelligence.
Right.
And intelligence didn't win.
It is 13 to me, 9 for the A-Rock Gakra. Either way, so I win that one. Who knew that I would actually win something with the stats that I rolled? Because like I said, I was in the negative in some places. But we'll see. We'll see. I'm going to say it this way. My charisma is burned. I can't use charisma next time.
Okay.
That's going to be the rules I set upon myself. All right. So back to the methamphetamines. She tries to find help, and she winds up basically in the welcoming hands, well-meaning, but still probably very affected meth heads. Or excuse me, methamphetamine users. I don't know how PC I want to go with this. but did that kind of wake you up into what kind of environment you were in? Or did you already know that drugs were kind of a problem in the area?
Oh, I already knew drugs were a problem in the area. That's why as soon as I found out the people she was around, I knew what was happening. And I slowly started figuring out where I could go.
Okay.
If I, for me to leave, where can I go?
So were you staying with her at her place?
Yes.
Wow. Well,
and she would leave and be gone for hours, come home for 1, maybe 2 hours, and then leave again.
Damn, dude, that's rough. How long was this relationship going for?
6 months.
Okay. And how long of that did you not know that she was on meth?
The first 2 or 3 months.
Okay.
Wow. I moved out of the bedroom and just was living in the house because I had nowhere else to go.
Sure. Well, what about now? Did you manage to get out? Like, what's your situation right now?
So now I actively avoid her and anyone who may, contact her.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure she knows that I'm back at my old job because I moved out of town for about 9 months, got a different job, changed jobs like 3 times just to make sure. And I ended up having to come back.
Just because
but
it was easier where you were, or
no, I'm living with a friend.
Oh, okay. That's good.
Yeah. Far enough away from her that she can't find me, but she could come find me at my job if she really wanted to.
Doesn't sound like that's happened yet.
No, it has not. But I do have full permission from my manager and the business owner that if she tries to even show up on property, I can just contact police.
Okay. Well, all right, good. Well, it looks like that you're on a good path as far as creating as much distance and plans to keep the distance, which, it didn't sound like at any point you were thinking, man, I should go back and try to save her, which...
No, after the things that transpired the night that I'll say it escaped, I didn't care. I cared about my safety and my well-being, and that was it.
Self-advocacy, making sure that you are, you're healthy and you're doing good for you. That's always the best thing. Like, falling in love is a huge thing. Like, the brain does all types of like wild things when it's in love, from changing its own body chemistry. It's, just ignoring everybody else around them except for what their fixation is at that time. So from going from such a high to such a low in just 2 or 3 months later, what do you think or did you experience a grieving process of that sudden loss of what you thought you had? If so, what did
I numbed myself. I tried numbing myself mentally.
Mm-hmm.
Started smoking a lot more weed, which there's nothing wrong with weed. Obviously, like that's...
Yeah, no, I don't vilify weed at all. The only time I'm like, boo weed is when that's all people spend their money on. Because I've seen people do that. Like, it's that their whole thing, and they wind up smoking.
To make things livable in the house, I had to stay at an insanely high.
Gotcha. And so this is while
Because she would
right there in the middle of everything.
Right, because she would pick fights with me just to get me riled up. Just to get me to fight with her. And if I stayed at that high just constantly, then she couldn't get to me.
I rolled another random number, taking us to page 143 in the Monster Manual.
Okay.
We are now looking at Dao, D-A-O, the large elemental neutral evil, and they're an earth elemental. That's what I'm seeing here. Their highest is a constitution of 24. Their lowest is a dexterity. You can choose either one. Their lowest is a dexterity and intelligence of 12.
Ooh.
Now,
so the intelligence was 12?
Yeah, the intelligence was 12. So they're
I'm going to go with intelligence.
Going to go with intelligence. All right, roll for your intelligence, sir.
I got a 16.
Oh, okay. 16 plus 1?
I guess so. I don't know the pluses.
No. So you rolled a 16. Okay.
Yeah.
17. All right, cool. So that might have been a good thing. Let's see how they roll. You said intelligence?
Yes.
All right. They got a 6. Congratulations. You took down the earth element for you. No loss there. All right. And let's see. I've burned my charisma. I'm going to go with my wisdom, which they only have a +1 on their wisdom as well. So.
Okay.
Let's see. They've got a 13. Oh, God, I almost nat one it. I lost. We are now 1-1. That is unfortunate. But hey, you have a earth elemental under your belt. Congratulations. This episode is brought to you by my own book, Dink, spelled D-I-N-Q, D&D in the coffin hold of the USS Enterprise. Though I've never had to deal with a loved one on meth like Steve had, I did grow up with parents who were addicts. Through their decision and my desire to get the hell out of Dodge, I chose to spend 4 years in the U.S. Navy. Thus began the most stressful and transformative years of my 20s. Get your copy now on Amazon in paperback or on Kindle. The link's in the description below. And if that doesn't make you want to buy my book, what does? All right, Steve, you're in the middle of this tumultuous relationship. She's trying to pick fights with you every chance she gets, and you are just sitting on cloud high every chance that you get.
Yes.
So when did you realize you had to stop doing that? Because I imagine that you did at some point. You're like, this is I got to get out. This is not conducive to my health. And how were you feeling about during then?
So I started planning where I could go when I leave, and I hadn't quite figured out the where, but I was talking to my sister who lives nearby, and I told her that I needed to start trying to slowly move out, because if I suddenly moved out, she would freak, and it wouldn't be pretty. I didn't even get a chance to try to slowly move out. The same day as that conversation, she snapped something.
Sure.
So she came home completely denying that she was on anything, but I could tell.
Right.
And I was trying to go to bed because I had to get up early the next day, and let me go to bed. Can you run downstairs and do this? Can you run over here and do this? Can you do this? Can you do this? She would make sure that I couldn't even sit down and eat dinner. So when she finally passed out on her bed, I was like, okay, I can get some sleep now. Then about an hour or two later, she popped up freaking out because her phone wasn't plugged in and she was afraid it was going to die. And she had to have her phone. Now, her phone only worked on the Wi-Fi because she didn't want a real working phone because then she could be tracked.
Okay. A little bit of paranoia there with your drug use. That's normal.
I helped her find her phone, but in the process of looking for her phone, the Wi-Fi came unplugged. She asked me to use my phone because she had to call someone.
Right.
And I said, fine, here's my phone. I'll go fix the internet. Get the internet fixed. I go back to her and I was like, okay, can I have my phone back now? No. I thought this is another one of her games. She's just trying to goat me into a fight.
Sure.
So I said, I'm not playing. I need to go back to sleep. I need my phone tomorrow. Can I have my phone back?
Right.
And again, she refused. And then she started going through my phone trying to find something to pick a fight about.
Oh, no. She's getting worse.
I was smarter than to leave anything in my phone, even contact with my family about her.
Especially by that point.
Yes.
Since you knew what it was about, right?
So when she couldn't find anything, she decided to just go on a rampage. She started telling me that I needed to get out of her house. And I said, okay, let me gather my stuff. I'll leave right now. And she's like, no, you can't take anything with you. I want you out of my house. I said, no, that's not how this works. I take my stuff with me and I leave.
Right.
She goes, no, you can come back for it later. I said, I've been through this rodeo before. I would need a court order to come get my stuff back.
Right.
I'm leaving with my stuff. Kept arguing with me. At this point, I actually turned the camera on my laptop on because I was sitting in front of my laptop. I turned the camera on to record for my safety. Eventually, it turned into she was calling random people on my phone, but nobody's answering because it's like 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. Eventually, it turned into, okay, if you go to my friend's house that lives a block away, if you go to their house, I'll give you your phone. If you go with me to their house, I'll give you your phone back.
Okay.
It's middle of the night. I'm exhausted, whatever, to get this fight to end,
Right, right.
So I start walking. She wanted me to get in the car with her, refused. Just did not seem like a good idea.
No, not in a close quarters area with somebody like that. No.
Right. So I walked. She drove. This is end of January, beginning of February. It's very cold outside.
Yeah.
So we get to her friend's house. I then go, okay, we're here. Let me have my phone.
Yeah.
Well, not until we get inside. So then she's trying to get her friend to wake up, answer the door. That is about 30 to 45 minutes. Eventually we get inside. She tells me to sit down. She has somebody watch me to make sure I don't go anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
She goes, talks to her friend. She comes back and goes, you need to go talk to my friend now. Okay.
What kind of ritual is this? It's weird.
I'm like, whatever. So I go talk to her friend. I look at her friend and I said, I'm not allowed to leave. She won't give me my phone. Do you agree I'm being held against my will?
Mm-hmm.
And she goes, yes. I said, then I need you to call the cops. Fun fact, there's no way to call the police from a laptop.
That seems like a missed opportunity for communication.
Yeah. There's no way to get a hold of anyone.
I've never thought
just
about
a laptop.
I've never thought about that.
Yeah, I didn't either until that was my only option. So anyways, her friend refused to call the police. And I had to sit there. And then she came back in the room, began to kick me, say awful things about me, making fun of my weight and other parts of my body that she could just ridicule.
Damn, dude.
At one point, she threatened to bash my head in.
Mm-hmm.
She said something about cutting me open and crawling inside my rib cage.
A lot of people have said this, and the more you say it, the more you realize how true the phrase is. Meth is a hell of a drug.
It is.
Dear God. All right. So obviously she didn't climb inside your rib cage, which is good.
No.
Which is good. I'm glad you're healthy, alive, and here talking with me today, because we have another monster to battle. We're going to page 88. This will be your choice right here. There are actually 3 creatures on here. All of them are dragons.
Worse.
You get to choose what age they are, ranging from the youngest to the middle age to the oldest. They're all black dragons. Which one do you want to face off on?
You said there's 3 of them?
3, yep. You got an adult, a wormling, and a young black dragon.
I will go with the middle-aged one.
The young black dragon, okay. They are not as strong as the earth elemental. I'll give you that. Again, this one's strength is the highest at 19 plus 4. Their weakness is wisdom at 11, so they get no modifier to that. How do you take on the black dragon?
Let's go with wisdom. Let's
All right.
Risk it for the biscuit.
All right. Roll your wisdom. I'll roll the young black dragon's wisdom and see what happens here.
All right, I got a 16.
Oh, that beats their 14.
Hey,
You out-wisdom a young black dragon. You left him bamboozled, you did. Proud of you. And you know what? Just because I think this is going to end in failure, unless somehow I get a nat 20, which you shouldn't get you shouldn't get nat 20 on stat checks, but it's whatever. It's my game. I do what I want.
exactly.
Going toe-to-toe with this thing on strength.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean,
Oof.
I don't have much else to go with here. My stats were not the best. Here we go. So 3 minus 2 is 1.
Yeah.
At least it's not a nat 1. If they get a nat 1, I win. All right, here we go. No, that is. I am now down 2 to your 1. Not bad. Not bad. You're winning.
Well, now I'm at 2.
Well, yeah, you won 2, but 3 strikes, you're out.
Oh, okay.
So
Okay.
If I bite it again, you win by default. Let's talk a little bit about the emotions that all this brought up. Obviously, during that time, you're feeling frustrated, scared, I'm guessing angry. Like you're probably feeling a full spectrum of what would be like the negative part of the emotion wheel, which I just learned about the emotion wheel through therapy. I recommend it. Right after you got out and, you found those other places to stay, you found those other jobs to do, the 5 stages, right? And if not to remind you anyway. Denial, anger, bargaining, depression, acceptance. Which one of those do you feel like you spent more time in than others? And, have you reached the acceptance point yet that, that's a chapter behind you, or do you feel like you're still stewing in it?
I spent a lot of time in anger. There,
rightly so. I mean,
there was nothing to bargain about. I'd already made a bargain with her that she broke.
Right.
So there was nothing to bargain for. I spent a long time in anger, and I basically just became the most selfish person I could for a while.
I mean, as you're right. I mean, a lot of people do kind of withdraw when it comes to coping. Some people use humor, some people deflect, some people seek comfort from others around them, but coping looks different for everybody. What was your worst moment during that anger, withdrawn self that you
what scared the hell out of me was I got a message from her through somebody else, and she described the house I was living in.
Okay. Yeah, that's terrifying.
Yeah.
That's some gangland shit right there.
And so I was living with a buddy of mine in a double wide trailer, and the message I received was something about living with another guy in a double wide trailer. And then she referred to the area that I lived in as a high meth area, which I found out later on she was actually confused and was confusing where I was living with somewhere else area.
I mean,
a little bit further away.
Sure. I can see where she might be confused.
So I felt better at that point that if she's thinking I'm in this area over here, then she's not looking where I am over here.
Right.
Came to the acceptance when I realized I had to come back. I talked to a few people in the area, asked, if there'd been any sightings of her. Has she been into the gas station I work at now?
Right.
And they said she's been in here maybe once or twice in the past 9 months. They said it's usually right after I would stop by because she would be looking for me. But when I found out that she is no longer living in the house that she was in, I felt better about coming back because she wasn't in the areas that she was before.
Sure. What about some other things? Because the way I broke it down, I saw that, you've got not only the loss of security, but kind of like a loss of trust there for a while. I don't know if you're going to be looking to jump into a relationship anytime soon right after this. And also,
no, it took quite a while.
Yeah. And during that, you lost freedom. You lost freedom while you were with her. You lost freedom just being able to go wherever you could without worrying about running into her. So between the trust that you might have in somebody,
had to change some of the stores that I would go to because I knew there was people there that had connections with her.
Which one was the worst though? Was it security, the trust, or the freedom? Which one would you say really kind of stung the most?
Probably the trust I wasn't sure who to trust for a long time because most of the people that I knew her, and I didn't know whose side they were on. So I didn't know if I could trust them. Like people would be like, "Hey, like where you been?" I can't tell you. In fact, when I came back, people, so many people were like, "Oh, I'm glad you're back. I'm glad you're back working here. I'm glad you're back in the community." And oh, where you been? And I literally just tell people I was in hiding.
Like somebody who had been through the relocation program, just be like,
Yeah,
"Hey, don't worry about it. I was away."
exactly.
We are doing the random generator, page 22, going even further back into the book. We have Azer, which is another elemental. It's a fire elemental, a dwarvish fire elemental, as they are. It has a strength of 17 with a modifier of 3. Its lowest is charisma, which I've known a couple of charismatic dwarves in my time playing D&D, but that seems to be on track, though. Very strong, not a lot of charisma.
What was the charisma?
A 10 with a modifier of 0.
Okay.
All right, so what do you want to do?
I'm going to try for my charisma again.
And I will roll for their charisma as well.
So I got an 11.
Okay, you got 11 plus 1. That is your 12. They got, they just eked out with a 14 over your 12. I do apologize.
Man.
Smited by the fire elemental, and I haven't used intelligence yet, so we'll try my intelligence against theirs. I got a 14, and they got a 15.
Oh,
that was a good romp through the fields of D&D for a moment. I hope you felt like you were there. I hope, as your DM, I really brought you into the game. So you're saying the loss of trust probably stung the most, because it wasn't just trust about somebody who you might have a relationship with. It's also the people surrounding there. And
yes,
if you're big into the community, of course, it's going to sting. What would you say to somebody having gone through this now, having on what I hope to be is a mend after all this? What would you say to somebody who is going through the same shit? What's the biggest advice you would give them?
If you're dealing with a significant other that is doing drugs of any kind that is causing problems in the relationship, if finding them help isn't working, if making deals with them isn't working, if it's not working, if they're only going to get clean if they want to.
Right.
If it's not working, it's okay to give up. It's okay to say, I can't do this anymore. And I know a lot of people have children with addicts, and staying with them just because you have a child with them is not good for the child.
No. Which is not to say that breaking up and starting the separation process is going to be easy. Anyway,
it's not. But it's a lot healthier and safer for you and the child.
Yeah. You got to think of the returns that are definitely going to come after that.
I lost people's respect when I stayed with her instead of leaving the first time. I got accused of even doing the drugs with her.
I could see that from the outside looking in, I guess, if you just took a casual glance at it.
When I'm sitting there saying, "Oh, I'm going to leave," and then all of a sudden I don't leave. Oh, he must be addicted to it also. She got him hooked.
Sounds like you were kind of bargaining with yourself there, thinking that, hey, this might get better.
Yeah,
we've got something we can change. Man, dude, I'm sorry you went through that. I'm glad you're out of it now.
The escape was emotional. I don't know, for some reason I can't cry in front of people. can't even produce a tear. But I straight up ugly cried right in front of my sister when I got to her house.
Well, good. you need to let that shit out.
It was a wave that could just not be held back any longer.
Right. Well, after that, I'm not surprised. Me personally, I probably would have been crying in the middle of it. I'm a guy who
I tried to stay quiet.
Yeah.
So
all that stuff that's inside of you, it gets a little smaller when you get the chance to actually let it out. And sharing it with somebody helps. And so I'm really glad that you had the chance to share this with me. Starting to realize that these single stories of losses that people are saying is like, hey, I lost my relationship. Hey, I lost my job. I lost my mom. They always come with a more intricate layer of losses that are just kind of baked into all that. what's next for you now? Is there any of this that you're bringing forward and you've got a plan to shape your future differently, or are you just taking one day at a time? What's life looking for you right now?
Um, Currently I'm dating someone. We have plans on, an engagement this year and possibly a wedding by the end of the year. Her and
Okay.
I've been on and off for
I just want to
15
say
years.
that's a lot quicker than I thought you were
Yes,
actually
yes,
going to
I
say.
know. We're taking things very serious.
Let me ask, does she know about the story?
Yes. Actually, she is going to college right now for her master's degree in health care management.
Really?
And she had to do one of her classes is public speaking, and she had to do one on trauma. And I actually typed out the entire story of what happened to me for her.
Oh, dude.
And she read it in a different room for me and
Yeah.
immediately came in the room and just wanted to hold me
Oh,
because she had never heard the full story until then.
dude, I bet that was cathartic as hell though. Like,
I To type it out, I had to put earbuds in and turn on just some angry music
uh,
just to be able to focus on the events of that night without being like, I can't do this anymore.
okay. How'd you feel by the end of it?
I hesitated on sending it to her. I did hesitate on hitting send.
I want to applaud you because not many people would even have the energy to actually go through putting the whole thing down like that so soon after the event. Like just for me writing.
Well, so the event happened a year ago this week.
I know. For me, I consider that pretty soon.
See, so much stuff happens to me just month by month that my brain has no concept of time anymore.
Okay. All right. Well, I tell you what, how about the next time that you have a huge traumatic event that you want to talk about live? Well, live, so to speak, with air quotes. You could always come back and we could just deep dive in another story.
There we go.
Yeah. I'll be here for that. I'm completely down with that. It's kind of the whole part and parcel of why I'm doing this podcast to begin with. So just one more question, because I wanted to know, I circled this on my list. Do you feel like the way that you're feeling about the community now, has it healed at all? Are you still worrying about who might be siding with her, who might be reporting back to her?
I've sort of been able to figure out who is more on her side, which has helped me with deciding where I can shop. And there's some people that, there was the first group of people that I was like, okay, these are for sure reporting back to her.
Yeah.
And there's been people in that group that, I don't know what happened, but they're not reporting back to her, at least not anymore.
Okay.
And then there's also people that I thought I could trust that I've found out I can't.
Wow, dude, you really got shook up over there with that.
Yeah, I'm very careful on what I tell people.
Yeah.
When I'm at work.
You gotta have some more people on your side, you know what I'm saying?
Well, so to also tag on to what life's looking for, like for me now.
Yeah.
I have plans in the fall to go back to school.
Okay.
I'm going to study media because I still have the dream of doing radio.
As you should. You got a good voice, that guy.
Want to do it. And the ways that I've been trying to go about it are not working. Well, I got to change up the strategy, and going back to school could really help.
Okay.
There's a great media arts program in the area.
Well, I feel like that's as good a segue as ever. Do you want to tell people where they can find you while you try to do this?
Yes. So you can find me at High Life Podcast on TikTok. There's underscores between each word, or just Google High Life Podcast. I do have merch now.
He does. And it's spelled HIGH space LYFE. There's that Y I was saying to know where it was.
I was trying to avoid a lawsuit from Miller.
You're doing good so far. I think you're below their radar.
Right.
All right.
I also do have another show that should be coming out soon.
Right.
It's been a project going on for over a year, and I think we're just about ready to start releasing these episodes. It's called What You Didn't Know. Season 1 is What You Didn't Know About Rock and Roll.
Okay.
We are following the history and from where rock and roll started to where it is now.
Heck yeah, dude. Can you give me a 2-word sneak peek of what season 2 might be about?
We've not got that far.
Okay. All right. Communication silence on that one. Gotcha. All right. Well, Steve, thank you so much for joining me, man. It sounds like to me that you're still in a healing process. I'm glad you got somebody to heal with you, and let's keep in touch, man.
Yes,
and
definitely.
If there's room in season 2, by all means, I'm going to be hitting you up.
Okay.
All right, man. Well, I'm your host, Michael LeBlanc, and if you happen to miss next month's episode, still, it's your loss. I'll talk to you guys later. Bye-bye.